Greetings, everyone, and welcome to the debut episode of the Discover New Music podcast from Full Pelt Music. We are going to be highlighting some of the best young bands from across the globe, starting today with Smoke, who hail from the Netherlands. Before we get to that, just a reminder to everyone to please follow us on our social media channels on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Full Pelt Music. And if you're watching the video edition of the podcast, please make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. So, welcome, Smoke, to the Full Pelt Music podcast. This is our Discover New Music version of the podcast, where we're looking to highlight some great up-and-coming bands from across the globe. You guys hail from the Netherlands, hard rock trio, who recently released your debut single. So just as a way of introduction, we've got Rowan, who's drums and vocals. We've got Kaj, who's the guitar and backing vocals, and Martin on bass. So thank you all very much for joining us.
It's a pleasure, man.
Really appreciate your time. So if we start at the beginning, how did Smoke come about? How did you guys meet, and where was the band formed?
Well, it's a bit of I guess a funny story, because like me and Rowan knew each other. Well, actually, we knew each other for a very long time. We met each other through school. So I think that must have been 10 years ago. I think something like that. We went to the same school as each other, basically. I was already kind of dabbling in music a little bit, playing guitar in another band. And our drummer quit, and then I knew of the fact that Rowan was a drummer, so I invited him to play in the band that I was then in. That didn't really go anywhere because of the fact that it was just a completely different style, and Rowan was not used to it was a bit of a metal kind of sludge, sludge metal band I was doing, so that didn't really go anywhere. That kind of fell dead really quickly, and then after that, a couple of years further down the line, I was trying out some bass. For some odd reason, I wanted to try out some bass because I felt like there was a lot of bass players needed in the circuit and stuff like that. So let me try and broaden my basically my tickets so that I can start playing in bands. And then Martin came around one day, and he was kind of practicing guitar, basically doing all kinds of things on the guitar. And he came by, and I said hey, here, try the bass. And he picked that thing up, and he started immediately playing with his fingers, zero effort. And I was looking at him, I'm like, okay, just take the damn thing, just start playing bass, just go do that, and basically then we kind of got together. We're hey, why don't we start playing together and start seeing where that goes. We started off with playing a lot of instrumental stuff. It was mostly instrumental, actually, and we had some songs that we created instrumentally. We recorded a couple as well. We even played in a kind of a contest, a band contest. Okay. And basically from that point on, we kind of just played, and then we took a break. I needed to move, and I needed to move far away from the guys, basically, and that basically stopped. That caused a kind of a pause in the band, and this was after I think 7 years. And then basically they started going into it again. They basically started recording at home, trying some new things out, things that they've already wanted to try out but didn't really get the chance to. They kind of were doing that online, sending each other stuff. And after a while, they visited me where I was living at that time, and they came with a couple of tracks, and they said well, we did this stuff and we really like it. If you would try and see if you could do something on it. And I listened to it. I'm like, this is really interesting. And I immediately had ideas. So I'm like, okay, just give me a minute. And I immediately started whipping things out. And at that particular time, I was really also, for me, in that break, I was doing stuff that I hadn't had to get the chance to because I was by myself, and I started playing a lot of slide stuff. Like I was really heavily focused on slide play and At that point, I was listening to a lot of Brother Deej from Louisiana. That was like still a big influence for me. And I started to incorporate a lot of slide stuff on the stuff that they already made. And that kind of flowed into this new thing that we were doing and this new sound. Of course, also with the fact like Rowan was the first time he sang on something.
Yes.
I was like, I even said to him like, what the hell, man? Like, we didn't know that you could sing like this. Why didn't you say something? You know, like, because we could have used it back then. And he was like, yeah, I didn't know. No. So we really started to put things in their place, basically. And from that point on, we recorded an EP in the studio. A lot of the tracks actually still are on. Actually, all of them are from the EP are on the album as well. But we did some stuff later on. But that kind of created the start of the sound. And then once that started to progress a little bit, especially with recording in the studio, I really started to understand the little trick that I learned, like the new thing basically. And a lot of songs basically came from that, and then we're at the point that we are right now, is that things are just like, rolling out like zero effort. 3 albums are planned within a span of a year, because we have so much content, so many songs that we have, that we want to make records 44 minutes, because if we want to make, like, for example, long play like records like vinyls, then we can do that. So we had to split it up in like 3 records basically. So yeah, that's basically the origin story of Smoke. Yeah.
Wow. So yeah, it is quite a unique tale, like you say, starting off all that time ago, and then the discovery of Rowan's voice. I mean, you don't get too many singing drummers. Obviously a couple of famous ones do spring to mind, but it obviously adds a kind of uniqueness to the band. And obviously, it's a fantastic voice, Rowan, that you've got. How did you find that transition, adding the vocals into the drums whilst you're going through that recording process?
Well, thank you first of all for the compliment. It's always nice to hear. Well, it was kind of a guess. I can't really remember why I tried to add it. I think Martin sent over some bass tracks. He had some ideas, and an idea came up in my head. I was like, all right, I'm just going to try to lay down some basic vocals and see how far it goes. And then it kind of clicked for me as well. Like, okay, it actually sounds pretty good. I hope, what will the guys think of it as well. It's always a bit nervous. And after getting a feedback from them as well, I started to think like, okay, maybe there's a chance I can actually pick this up. And I actually started to take it very seriously. I went to singing lessons, and I practiced for a lot of hours just to get myself ready for the studio recordings, and now even live, which is a whole different level, because now I have to combine my drumming together with the singing. And in the beginning, that was quite a struggle. It was actually very difficult, and still is, because I have to essentially do 2 things at the same time. But slowly but surely, I'm getting more into the groove of things, and I think it's progressing quite well. And I'm starting to find my place, understanding how to combine both elements and make it work and make it stick. And now I'm probably very convinced that this might actually be the best decision that I've ever made in my life, to just go singing, find a way to actually express myself also vocally. We'll talk about Lineage, your debut single, in a second. And obviously I think that is a credit, and shows that you've made the right decision. But I guess it's quite interesting. Like we said, there's not many drumming singers or singing drummers. So I guess as you create songs and you're in that creative process, do you have to envisage the song live to make sure that you could actually pull double duty on the song? Do you have to tailor the song to the live setting at all? Well, actually, I do tend to write the drums and vocals separately, because I want both of those jobs really to focus on the song and make sure that they serve the song as well as they can. And then later on, once both parts are essentially written, I try to combine the 2. And sometimes I have to make small concessions live, because sometimes I write up fills that are fairly difficult to combine with the vocals rhythmically. But usually it ends up working out, and it just takes a lot of practice. Even if there are certain parts that are a little bit tricky to get right, it just takes a lot of practice, and then usually I'll get it right after a couple of tries.
We've alluded to Lineage. So that's the debut single that you guys have put out. It's obviously available on
all streaming platforms and on YouTube as well. And we've added it to our Discover New Music playlist, so you can check it out on that. How did you guys come to the decision that that was the track you wanted to lead with as you emerged out into the world?
I think it has to do with the fact that it's we have a combination of like songs like Lineage that are more forward, they're more heavy, they have a lot of emphasis on the distorted parts and stuff like that. But we also have a lot of tracks that are more clean, more strumming, more like open, more ambient. So we thought like, okay, well, maybe it's the best thing to do is to start off with the heaviest thing that we have, which is Lineage, and then see how people respond. And then we can, the second track that we'll release, the second single, is going to be a little bit less than that. So it still has like a bit of a forward drive to it, but it's not really like ambient stuff that we have on the record. But it's more forward driving as well, but it's more clean. Okay. Like it has a lot more clean to it. It has a lot more ambience to it. So we wanted to see how people responded to Lineage first. Like how do they respond to our heavier stuff? And then based off of that, we could release the less heavy stuff, basically. Yeah.
So the theme behind Lineage is one of brotherhood and helping out family and friends during hardship. Obviously, that's something over the last 18 months I think everyone has learned an awful lot about. What was that part of the inspiration behind the song? The events of the last 18 months.
I guess partly because we've been in this situation for so long, nobody can predict for how long we'll still be in it. But sure, that was part of the inspiration, but also just figuring out, it's always nice to just help out friends, family whenever they're in need, whether it's because of COVID or even without it. It's very important to always stand and help the ones that you love. And that's essentially what the song is about. Make sure that, you stay strong. And whenever someone is, who needs some help, just make sure that you're there for them.
No, yeah, obviously, concur completely. The world is in a bit of a state at the moment, and it's a very important, theme to be promoting and putting out there. So no, that's fantastic. And the next single that you've started to tease is called Motion, I believe. So obviously, yes. You just said that it's perhaps slightly different to Lineage musically. When can fans expect to hear it, and what should they expect from that release?
It's going to be released in September, so we're aiming for the September release. That's why we also started to tease it already, because like then people can get kind of warm about it, can hear some more stuff. It's different in a sense. It's more strumming based, but it does have slide stuff in it, a lot of slide stuff as well. But it's more strumming based. It's still driving forward, and the lyrics are something that is very important to all three of us, is that it's about taking care of your environment around you, because it's also in our bios, like we all three come from areas where we are constantly like surrounded by the nature of the south of the Netherlands, basically. Like there's a lot of swampy stuff, a lot of forest, a lot of countryside and stuff like that. Me myself, I have a large history in country stuff, like working on farms, being busy with that kind of stuff. So it's always been a very important part for us, like nature and environment. And we just kind of see that nowadays, like a lot of things are not going right, like we're not really taking care of our surroundings, and because we only have this one planet and kind of have to do with it what we can, and we have to take care of it. And that's basically what the song is about. It has a lot of metaphors in it. That it's about taking care of your environment.
Yeah, we very much look forward to hearing that when it comes out in September. So looking a bit further beyond that, you've already recorded the album, I believe you said a little while ago. I believe it's going to be called The Mighty Delta of Time. Is that correct?
Yep, that's correct.
Okay, so a similar question. When can fans expect that album to be coming out? And as a piece, what should fans expect from the album in its entirety?
Well, the album is going to be dropped in November, and on top of that, there's also going to be a release show following that in November the same month. So once it drops, we also have our own show. It's going to be in the Netherlands, in our hometown, that we're going to play at the local stage, basically. The album is an accumulation of a couple of things. Like we already said, like the brotherhood stuff, the environmental stuff, but there's also other deeper things that we haven't showcased yet. One track deals with depression, for example, like the feeling of what happens when people are not around the people that they love, for example, or missing somebody important in their lives, and the depression that follows after that, basically. Another track deals with death. Like we have our ending track is a track that deals with somebody that's going through the process of dying, and the people around them, and all that stuff, and basically not to be afraid of it. It's something beautiful, something you need to embrace. Another track deals with depression, anxiety, how to get through it, and how to climb up on top of it, and try to like let it be behind you, basically. And that track is actually kind of very interesting, because that track is, most of our tracks are led by guitar and slide guitar. That particular track is actually led by bass. There's a lot of bass, like different parts of bass playing, like apart from like chord strumming, talk, like with finger play, doomy stuff. Like Martin created that one by himself, mostly because he had a lot of ideas that he didn't really get to do, like I was telling you before, while we were still doing instrumental stuff. So that track is like a drive, like the bass is basically the lead guitar in that sense. Like it drives the dynamics in the track. Basically, it is the dynamic instrument. So there's a lot to expect. There's also a bluegrass track, like completely bluegrass, like resonator, slide, and so. Yeah,
no, certainly sounds like you've put the effort into making it an eclectic record, and you certainly haven't shied away from some very important topics. Is that something that you're keen to do? To use the platform that you have to discuss topics, perhaps that you feel are important to yourself and to the world.
I think it just kind of happened that way, right?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I think it's always an important step in the process as well, especially for me, since now I finally have a platform to also talk about topics that I wouldn't regularly talk to anyone, really. Mm-hmm. But I think it's a very good thing to open up the conversation of certain things like depression, because you shouldn't take that sort of stuff lightly, and it's important to just have a conversation about it. And perhaps through these songs, we can open up and start talking to each other, and perhaps trying to help each other out with certain situations. And I think it's a very important thing to just talk about, really.
But I definitely think it's something that went naturally. Like it's not something we aim for necessarily.
No,
it's not our. For example, the second album is probably not going to have a lot of that. But in this particular first album, there's a lot of these topics that we tackle, and it was just kind of naturally flowed that way, I guess. Like, yeah.
And on the topic of brotherhood, bringing people together, one of the most important aspects of the music industry is the live side of things. So you've alluded to an album release show that you've got coming up in the Netherlands. Have you got any other touring plans in Europe?
Yeah, we do. There's a at the moment there we have very soon, next week Sunday. The 22nd, we have our first gig after Corona, basically, and it's going to be in Breda. It's going to be in Belkrum, Breda. There's going to be more Instagram social posts following that. Like more information is going to come out, especially like soon, like I think today or tomorrow. After that, we have the release show in November so far planned, because we have to kind of see where the openings are and see where we can find openings to play. For 2022, we have quite a lot of things. We have quite a lot of things like lined up with other bands. I believe we have a tour in April. We have some stuff along the way as well with other bands that still has to be confirmed and stuff like that. But they're planning that right now as we speak. Yeah.
And are you looking at making your way across to the UK at any point? Is that something you guys would like to do?
Yeah, hopefully very soon. Yeah, I mean, we'd love to visit the UK. I've been there a couple of times, only in London thus far, but I'd love to see more of the country.
Mm. It is a beautiful country, and we can't wait to welcome you over here. I'm sure there's many venues that would love to have you. And yeah, obviously we can't wait for the album and for the next single, Motion, to come out. Until then, we're really enjoying Lineage, that I've already mentioned. Listeners can check that out on our Discover New Music playlist on Spotify. And of course, you guys are on social media. Your Instagram is at Smoke Band Official, and your Facebook is Smoke NL. I don't believe you have a Twitter, though, do you?
No, we currently don't have one.
Don't have that, no.
No, but yeah, listeners can obviously follow you on Instagram and on Facebook, and yeah, keep track of your future plans. I really appreciate you guys coming on the podcast and you know, giving up your evening for me. Yeah, is there anything else you guys would like to say to the fans that are listening?
Apart from the fact, like, I hope you guys are enjoying our music so far, and I hope you guys are like really anticipating like a lot of that like swamp mud that we always advertise. Like, that's what we're about, you know. We're about that psychedelic swamp mud that we bring. Yeah, just stay tuned for a lot of it, man. Like, we got our second album that's planned for April next year, so keep tuned, man. We got a lot of swamp mud for you guys. Yep.
That's excellent news. Yeah. Yeah, thank you both, all three of you, for joining us. Really appreciate that. And again, yeah, fans, check the band out on our playlist and on their social media. Thank you, guys.
All right.
Thank you very much for having us.
Thanks everyone for joining us on our debut episode. Really hope you enjoyed that chat with Smoke. Join us again soon for another conversation with another young band that we'll be looking to highlight. And again, remember to follow us on social media and subscribe on YouTube. Thank you.